Hi you guys, it is Delancey and welcome back to the start of another reading vlog. This reading vlog is a little bit different and extra special. So ever since I came back into the booktube community and I've started reading on a regular basis, I often find myself asking myself, where do I pick back up? Which books should I have at the top of my TBR? Which books should I be prioritizing? And so that's the inspiration for this week's video. I'm going to be reading some books that my favorite booktubers have spoken very highly of. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the 3 books that I'm planning to read for this vlog. The first up on the list is a book that was highly recommended by Regan over at the Peruse Project. She is like my OG favorite booktuber that I have been watching since day one, and she really recommended The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. I tend to read a lot of fantasy and there are some small fantasy elements in this book, but how I understand it is it's largely like a Regency romance. From what I've gathered, it's the story of a girl named Nina. She wishes to enter high society and really up her game and become one of the quote-unquote beautiful ones, which is this subset of women in high society that are just, I guess, the best of the best. And she's also getting help from a man named Hector. And I believe Hector does have some magical abilities, which is how those kind of small fantastical elements come into play. But what Nina does not know is that Hector does have ulterior motives for hanging out with her. I actually kind of like that I don't really know what I'm walking into. Next up is going to be Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. This book was recommended by Chandler Ainsley. She is my go-to YouTuber whenever I'm in the mood for romance. And this book is not a romance novel. It's more of a mystery thriller, a low-stakes mystery thriller, but Chandler absolutely loved this book, and I do appreciate a mystery from time to time, so I thought this would be a fun one to pick up. About a group of assassins in a past life. They're like in their 60s and 70s now. They all get invited to go on a cruise, and then mysteriously someone starts killing them off, and it becomes this mystery as they try to figure out who is the killer among this cruise ship of killers. So it sounds like a really fun time, just something light and easy to listen to. And then finally, a book that I already have that I actually bought from Barnes & Noble not too long ago is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is an adult fantasy. I think it's a romance fantasy novel. And this book comes from Cari Cakes, or Cari Can Read, a big YouTuber I really enjoy following. And this book did not make her top favorites list for 2022, but she did speak very highly of this book. She said it was solid. It had her gripped from beginning to end. This is a story of a girl, human girl, who is essentially adopted by a vampire, and she lives in a vampire world, a kingdom run by vampires, but she is a human, so she is constantly in danger. Her life is always hanging by a thread, and she ends up joining this competition between vampires. Vampires battle it out, and whoever wins this competition gets, how I understand it, they get a wish from the goddess of death, basically the head honcho of this universe, and that wish can be anything. And so this human girl, she joins the competition hoping to defeat a bunch of vampires so that she can get her one true wish granted. So I heard, like I said, very gripping, really exciting, action-packed, so I'm really looking forward to this one, and I can't wait to get started. I already got my bookmark ready to go, so I think I'll start this tonight. Okay, so that is the plan, you guys. It is Sunday night. It's almost 8 p.m. I've done all my meal prep for the week, got my clothes laid out, I got my work phone charging. Everything's pretty much set and ready to go. I just need to finish doing laundry and then of course get into pajamas, wash my face. So I think I'll start an audiobook and do all that and then jump into bed and start reading the physical book that I already have. So without further ado, here we go. Welcome to the vlog. Happy to have ya. Good morning, you guys. It is Monday morning. I start work in about an hour. I just got to the house that I'm dog sitting at. I am dog sitting this week. I did make a lot of progress on my audiobook last night. I started The Beautiful Ones by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. The plot thus far, what I have gathered, is we are following a girl named Nina. Now, Nina, she is from the countryside, but she's recently come into a lot of money because her cousin has just discovered that he cannot have kids. So that means Nina is now his heir, and he loves her deeply and he cares about her a lot. So he pulls her out of the countryside and immediately inserts her into high society in time for the season to start. Now, the season is this period of time where young women come out into society as
true women for the first time, and it becomes a woman's priority to be courted and eventually married off. Now, Nina is a huge romantic with a capital R, and she reads lots of romance novels, and she loves the idea of going out into the season and finding this great, passionate, loyal, amazing love of her life. But the thing is, that's not always the case. That's not really reality as it's panning out for her. And Nina is also kind of sticking out like a sore thumb in high society. She lacks all of the manners and proper trainings of being a young lady. When she is experiencing certain emotions or she gets really excited about something, she does not hold back. She's very expressive. And Nina also possesses telekinetic abilities. Now, this is something that in the novel, they are just starting to discover that certain people have the ability to move objects with their mind. And it's kind of in line with all of these technological advancements that are also happening in the time period, which is kind of a nice touch in terms of the world building. Now, these telekinetic powers, unlike other fantasy novels, they aren't that powerful. They're relatively small and contained. People with telekinetic abilities, it's kind of just party tricks. And usually the men who have these abilities might go on to become circus acts or sideshow performers, whereas women like Nina who have this ability, it's kind of a thing to keep on the hush hush. It's not really ladylike, and it's, if anything, seen as kind of a nuisance. So there you have Nina, and then you also have Hector, who is the male protagonist or male love interest of this story. And Hector has telekinetic abilities as well, and he meets Nina at a party and he agrees to train her and help control her powers, and he also announces that he is planning to court Nina. But the thing is, Hector's got ulterior motives because he's actually madly in love with the wife of Nina's cousin. Her name is Valerie. And so we have a lot of internal conflict going on with Hector as he struggles with kind of the ethics behind what he is doing, whether he truly wants to court Nina or if he is just trying to find an excuse to be near Valerie. She has this backstory where she used to be this very fun-loving, easygoing girl, and she has really hardened over the years, and she's actually pretty mean, and she's really hard on Nina. And I still cannot figure out whether this is a story about Hector and Valerie or Hector and Nina. I feel like it's Hector and Nina because we spend a lot of time reading from Nina's point of view, but I really like that I don't entirely know where this love triangle is going. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and grab the dog and continue on this audiobook before the workday starts.
Hello, the day is done and I'm just reading my books. I'm making my way through The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This was the book that Cari Cakes said was really good. She liked it. I'm currently on page 89 and I have really liked it thus far. It is moving at a breakneck speed. I really like the way Cari described the book, which was essentially vampires meets Hunger Games. Making my way through it, I feel like I've read a lot more than what the book actually shows, but we'll get there. I also continued listening to my audiobook of The Beautiful Ones, and I don't know, you guys, I don't think I'm being naive. I don't think I'm totally missing something as a reader, but I feel like this is one of the best love triangles, the best will they, won't they that I have ever read. Seriously, like I think I know who the two love interests are in this story, but I have to admit that the author does such a great job at making you... What's interesting too is you're reading from different character perspectives. You jump around from Hector's perspective to Valerie's perspective to Nina's perspective, and so I don't know, it's almost like my view of the characters are sometimes colored by the way each of the characters view each other, and so I can't grasp like who the female love interest is in this story. And like I said, I don't think I'm missing something as a reader. I'm listening pretty intently to this audiobook. I think I know where it's going. I just want to say that this is a very well-written book. A lot of fun. Probably be heading to bed soon. I am kind of tired. I usually am like an early to bed, early to rise kind of gal. So I am going to be heading to a Pilates class in the morning, and then from there start my work day. I am really excited though, because tomorrow after work, my coworker realized that we are actually going to be finishing up work at a location that is really close to this popular bookstore in town. and she asked if I wanted to swing by with her afterwards, and I was like, of course. Hi everyone. So it is Tuesday night now, and I wanted to show you the 3 books that I went and bought at the bookstore today. This is a little out of character for me. I actually don't buy books very often. I am hesitant to buy books that I haven't read yet because I don't know if I'm gonna like them. And then after I've read the book, I'm kind of hesitant to buy it because I've already read the book. And I realize that you buy books in order to put them on your shelves and display them, and so maybe that will change about me in the years to come. But up until this point, it's been rare occasions that I will go out to a bookstore and just have a total book buying binge. You know what I mean? But this is very impulsive of me, and I think it's just because I live far away from this bookstore, so it's rare that I, get to go over there, and I was just having a good time, a little fun on a Tuesday. So the first book that I bought, I just went ahead and I got the physical copy of The Beautiful Ones. I have yet to finish the audiobook. I'm 60% of the way through, and I'm gonna wait to do like a formal check-in with you guys, but I have to say, I am so impressed with this author. I really enjoy her writing. I've heard other people say that her writing is really beautiful, and I would have to agree. Silvia Moreno Garcia, she's not very overly flowery in the way that she describes things or describes characters, and I wouldn't say that at all there's any kind of purple prose or that her writing is inaccessible. It is highly accessible, and yet at the same time, it is so beautiful, and it's done so subtly that it's hard for me to explain like why it's so beautiful, but you just have to read it to know for yourself. So I have been really loving the audiobook, so I just want to go ahead and buy the physical book to display on my shelves. Look at me go. On that same note, I went ahead and bought another book by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is Mexican Gothic. I know it was really popular, a couple years ago, and this is actually a horror novel, and it won the Goodreads Choice Award for like best horror, which is like, this is like a Regency romance, and then this is horror, and like really good horror. Like, what? Like, good for Silvia Moreno Garcia, because that is really impressive. This is a story of a woman who is a debutante, or like a debutante, but she becomes this sleuth out of necessity when she receives a letter from her newlywed cousin, and her cousin is greatly distressed and requests that she comes see her immediately to this place called The High Place, which is the home that her cousin is now living in. It's owned by a very wealthy Englishman's family, her new husband, and the family is very mysterious. And so our main character, she goes to this place to kind of figure out what's going on with her cousin. And in the process, she starts to unravel some of this family's dark kept secrets, and they turn out to be a lot more violent and twisted than she could have ever expected. I'm not sure if I'm gonna wait till the fall to read this, because this definitely has like a fall vibe to it. At least that's what I'm picking up on, but I may read it sooner just because I'm so intrigued by this author. And I know she does have a longer backlist to kind of explore and experiment with, but had to go ahead and pick this one up. So looking forward to this read. And then the third book I grabbed this completely because of BookTube hype, and that is The Fourth Wing by Rebecca, I believe it's Yaros. Right when I rejoined the online book community, this was one of the first books that I saw, and everybody was posting it on their stories and their Instagram posts, and I was really intrigued. And then I saw this at the bookstore, and I still had no idea what it was about, so I picked it up and I read the synopsis, and it does actually sound pretty interesting. This is a fantasy / romance. I think it's a romantasy. That's a new term I learned. It's the story of this girl who originally she was supposed to become a scribe in her empire, and so she was supposed to live a rather quiet and peaceful life in the library and among books, but for reasons unknown, at least at the moment, she is forced to become a dragon rider, or at least enter an elite college for dragon riders in the hopes that she can train and eventually become a dragon rider. And her mother is this huge, famous, ruthless commander in the empire, and the pressure is on, needless to say, especially because there are so many students in this college, but there are very few dragons to be paired up with. And so all of these students have hidden agendas. It's very cutthroat. I love that kind of school setting drama, so I'm already really excited. Plus, there is a war looming outside of the Empire's gates, and it is coming closer and closer. The protective wards are failing, and it is also suspected that leadership within the Empire has some secrets of their own. So I'm getting a little political intrigue, which we do love in this household. So I think I will be picking up this book fairly soon. Once I get through all the books for this reading vlog, this is high on my list. I might grab this one next, but yeah, totally bought this because of the hype, so fingers crossed. I like it. And on that note, I think I have done everything I needed to do today. So I am gonna go wash my face and get into bed and read and probably go to sleep really early because I'm very tired and my body is like very sore from like that Pilates class. It was crazy. So yeah, okay, night guys. Hi you guys, I have good news. I finished The Beautiful Ones. I got off of work not too long ago and I finally finished it. And I have to say, I agree with Regan's review of this book. I thought this was excellent. I think one of my favorite elements of this book is actually the villain. And I think that's because it was such, to me, it was such textbook execution of a well-written villain. Because you have a villain who has a very complex backstory, and as the reader you get to learn about that backstory and you learn why the villain is the way that they are. Granted, they are awful and you don't support them and their choices, but you understand why and how they became the way that they are, and you can also see why the villain thinks that they are actually the hero in this story. I also really liked that in most romances, not always, but in most, miscommunication is often the driving force that pushes the two love interests apart. And while there is some level of miscommunication in this book, I felt like it was very realistic. I felt like these two love interests actually communicated pretty well. And it was more so the agendas of these third-party people who were consciously trying to keep these two lovers apart, which was just kind of a nice twist, something I don't see as much in romance novels. I also really liked the magic system. I feel like often in fantasy novels, magic will have a really big presence in the story and will heavily influence the plot, whereas the magic in this book is very subtle and it adds a nice dainty touch to the world building, and I found that refreshing as well. In terms of the characters, I really enjoyed Hector. I found his internal conflict to be really interesting and his growth as a character. It was really wonderful to read about. And I kept picturing Oscar Isaac, that actor, I think he was in the Star Wars films. I kept picturing him throughout this book for that character. Overall, I thought this book was very romantic. It was very melodramatic at times, which kept it very interesting and fun to read. And I really look forward to reading more books by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Well done. And on that note, I am going to be starting my second audiobook, which is going to be Killers of a Certain Age. It still hasn't come in at the library, so I'm a little concerned about that, but I do have the audiobook, so no worries there. And I'm still just chugging my way through the physical book that I have, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Going through the work week, usually by Wednesday, Thursday, I start to fall apart. So it's only like 6:30 p.m., but I'm so tired, I'm probably just gonna get my pajamas now, just read for the rest of the night. So yeah, one book down, 2 more to go.
Quick clip update. I'm on page 145 of this book, and I think one of my favorite parts of this book thus far is actually the witty banter between Araya and Rain. So Araya is our main character, and Rain is this kind of male vampire that's helping her, that wants to ally with her, and she is just not having it, but their banter is so good, and I think that's like honestly one of my favorite parts of this whole book. So yeah, I'm at 145. I cannot stay awake any longer. I'm going to bed now. That'll do.
Hi everyone, it is Saturday. Blown my way through Killers of a Certain Age, and I'm about at the 70% mark. It's not too serious. You don't need to think too hard when you listen to it. I feel like it's a perfect book to listen to or read when you are on summer vacation, like on the beach, and you want something that is kind of a mystery thriller, does have a little excitement to it, but is overall pretty low stakes. It's like Charlie's Angels, but once they've retired. So you have this group of 4 women. They become spies like in their 20s or late teens, all around the same time, and they are on a squad together, and they spend, gosh, 40 years, I think, in the business of being assassins, but they're assassins for the greater good. I think they're about 6 months out from retirement, and the 4 of them get invited on this all expenses paid cruise in celebration of their retirement. It's a gift from the agency, so all 4 of them attend, and then things start to go sideways when they realize that they are actually now the targets of their agency. Their agency is now trying to kill them off, and that is where our story begins. They try to figure out why they are being framed, who did it, and who do they need to kill in order to live happy, peaceful lives now in their retirement. So we have dual timelines. We have current day, where these women are now in their 60s and 70s, and they are trying to figure out the mystery at hand. And then we also jump back to when they first started as agents, and also we get an inside look into the various missions that they did when they were younger, some of the most important or impactful ones that they did. I feel like it flows very smoothly. I've enjoyed listening to it on audiobook. And then I'll save any kind of update for Serpent and the Wings of Night until I get a little bit further in through the book. I do really like it. It just takes me a longer time to read physical books because I actually have to sit down and read them. And last night I did make some progress. I also read a little bit this morning, but I am also juggling just like taking care of my place and then also my Korean lessons. So there's only so much time in a day, but I will get that done, and I will end the reading vlog when I finish that physical book. But in the meantime, I'm gonna run to a cafe now. I have a little bit of writing I need to get done. I usually have a weekly writing goal for myself, and then run around, do some errands, the library, grocery store, and I'll just be listening to my audiobook throughout those drives. So I'm thinking I will finish Killers of a Certain Age today. That is the goal, and I'll let you guys know how I do.
All right, guys, it's Saturday night. We are working away on a new Korean grammar lesson, and I got my chill summer beats going in the background. That is essential for studying. I do have some laundry that I still need to fold and put away, which I will do shortly, and then I'm just gonna shower and crawl into bed and do some more reading. It is only 8:30 p.m. and I am already falling asleep, so.
Hi everyone, it is Sunday and the apartment is a total mess. I just got done filming a new YouTube video. It's a haul of all the purchases I made while I was in Korea, and everything is just everywhere right now. So I am waiting for my footage to download onto my computer, and then I'm gonna go ahead, clean everything up, and then go to the grocery store because I was supposed to go to Trader Joe's yesterday and I didn't feel like it, so I gotta go today. I do have good news though. I did finish the audiobook to Killers of a Certain Age. I finished it this morning while I was setting everything up, and I liked it. Very enjoyable, very pleasant, but not very memorable. I don't think it's something that I'll remember even a month from now, really, the details of it. But I think that there are a lot of books out there, rightfully so, that are written to be just entertainment. They're not meant to be these incredibly impactful stories. What makes it a gem is not necessarily its plot, the intricacies of its plot, the high stakes, or the emotional impact it leaves. It's more so the characters, specifically the 4 women, and all of the cute banter that they will have. I think that's more so what this book is about, and it does a very good job with that. In the event the author wanted to make the story more high stakes, I feel like they could have added a lot more complexity to the background, especially the relationship between the protagonists and the antagonists. I feel like the formula was very simple, and the bad guys were clearly bad guys straight from the start. You didn't like them, and I just feel like there was so much opportunity to create much more interesting villains and create more, I guess, a deeper relationship, a greater history between the antagonists and the protagonists that could therefore give the hero a really tough decision and just a much more interesting read and fight between the two, I guess, at the end. I do want to say too, this book really reminds me of the Thursday Night Murder Club. I think that's the title of that book series. I read the first book in that series this past winter, and they feel like the same universe. I think it just did exactly what it set out to do. It was a good time, and that's that. So finish that book. That just leaves me with this book, Serpent and the Wings of Night. I still have a ways to go on it. So hopefully when I get back from the grocery store and get my meal prep done for the week, I, can blaze as much through this as I can. I'll probably finish it during the work week, the upcoming work week. And when I do, I will just give you guys final thoughts and a nice little wrap up of this reading vlog. Hi, you guys, this is not the end of the vlog yet. I'm still reading. I just have like 30 or so pages left of The Serpent and the Wings of Night. It got so good at the end. Like, it's been a whirlwind pace this entire book, like breakneck speed from page 1. The action has been nonstop and I have enjoyed it, but wow. Last 100 pages, I think I could confidently say are just insane. Shoot, that was well done. That was well done. That's it. That's the whole update. But I just wanted to say, really well done. I even have my retainer in right now. I didn't even wait. I had to say. Oh my God. Good morning, you guys, and welcome to the end of this reading vlog. I'm going to be sharing my final thoughts on these 3 books, and I'm going to go ahead and start with The Serpent and the Wings of Night because I just finished this book last night, and I feel like I didn't give a lot of updates while reading this in the vlog, but really for the first 75% of this book, I didn't really have any updates. That being said, it was very entertaining. The first 75% is really just following Araya, a human, as she goes through the Cari, which is that competition between the most ruthless vampires in her kingdom as well as the adjacent kingdoms, as they all vie for the top spot to be the winner of the Cari so that they can get a wish granted by Nyaxia, who is the goddess of death and the mother of vampires. And throughout the first 75%, it is really entertaining. It is neat to have that kind of Hunger Games feel to things where you are getting to see each of the events or the trials, which characters make it, which characters don't make it, as well as all of the drama that is bubbling beneath the surface in the interim between each of these events. It's the last 25% of this book, the last, I would say, 100 pages that just really did it for me. There was so much payoff and more with this book. It ends on quite a cliffhanger, I would say, and it has so much opportunity for political intrigue and backstabbing in the second book. One of my favorite aspects of this book, as I've said previously, would be the relationship between Araya and Regan. Regan is one of the vampires that she meets along her journey in the Cari. He is from the rival clan that her and her adopted vampire father are from, so there is a little tension there, and there's a lot of witty banter and cleverness between the two. They are so different and yet so similar in so many ways. And Regan is a ruthless killer, but at the same time, he clearly has a heart somewhere in there, as well as a lot of mystery behind his backstory. And we slowly get to uncover that throughout the first 75%, and then it just explodes from there. And what I really like too about this relationship is that both of the characters have a lot of complexity to them in their motives, in their perspectives of the world, as well as just their history of past relationships, which I feel like added a nice layer of realism to the romance, because you have two people coming together who have been in relationships with other people in the past, and to see how that history collides with one another and reacts was really fascinating, and I feel like really made this romance just so much more interesting for me as a reader, as well as higher stakes. I also do want to say too, there are a lot of trigger warnings for this book. It is very dark. There is a lot of violence and gore. It does make for an entertaining read, but if that is something of concern to you, I would definitely look that up ahead of time. If you are a fan of vampire stories or a fan of romantasy, this is definitely a must read. That being said though, I know Cari, and I have heard from other readers that the second book is not as strong as the first book, and I'm hoping that it's not the case for me, just because, like I said, it ended on such a cliffhanger and there's so much opportunity for things to just continue to explode and bloom. So I'm not sure, but I'm definitely intrigued and will be picking up the second book soon. The second book that I read was Killers of a Certain Age. Of the 3 books that I read for this vlog, this one would probably be my least favorite, but that does not mean that it is a bad book. I still really enjoyed it. It is, the best way I could describe it is it's one of those books that just gives you a passing smile. For me, it wasn't very memorable, and I found that the plot and the setup was quite simplistic, and there was a lot of missed opportunity to make even more complex characters and even more complex backstories that could have really raised the stakes for this story. But like I said earlier, I don't think that that was the goal or the intention of this book. It really was just meant to entertain you in the moment. It has a lot of great cheeky lines. It's a really fun exploration of female friendship. And in that regard, I feel like the book does succeed most definitely. So I would probably give it, if I had to rate it, like a 3 stars for me. And finally, we have The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This was a highly influential read for me in that it put a new author on my radar. Silvia Moreno Garcia is now somebody whose past books I want to explore, and I will always keep my eyes peeled now for whenever a new book comes out by her. This is just a solid Regency romance, but it has a tinge of magic that keeps this story particularly memorable. But at the same time, it's just a drop of magic in that the magic does not overpower the story. And at the end of the day, this is still a Regency romance through and through. The writing is simply beautiful, and it also features a villain that, in my opinion, is so well crafted because they are so complex. And it leads to a villain that you can both understand and loathe at the same time, which is like the perfect formula. Really glad I picked this up. Really glad I picked all of these books up. So I would consider this a successful reading vlog. So that is gonna do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye guys.